Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox, and hello wotv players. You may have heard me complain about the lack of certain support like job-based vision cards for bow units and bow teams, but here today we're going to talk about all the bows that are available in the game, and there are quite a few, and they do go in a couple different directions, and even a direction that other weapons don't tend to go, as there are a number of very accurate bows. Accuracy tends to be very important for ranged units in a way that it doesn't tend to be for more close ranged units. So accuracy builds kind of become their own thing, and if you have a long range unit that you need to make more accurate, the strongest bows in the game may not necessarily be that important to you if you can't hit the broadside of a barn with them. So accuracy builds are kind of getting their own space within this review. But if we're not thinking about accuracy, if we're going purely for physical, let's start with Yoichi's bow. And this is the legendary Reliquary's bow. This is going to have 182 attack, 15 accuracy, and 4 critical. As you can see, we're already getting a good bit of accuracy here. That's nice. For the passives, we're going to get hate down 8, which I think is going to be really important for ranged units. This means that they can get 4 hits in before their hate even hits not positive, but 0. They're going to lose 2 hate per hit. So they're going to be raining a lot of hell down from the back row before anyone even thinks to hit them. And if they're staying back, maybe with other tech like, it would reduce the amount of turns that this would really work for, but you could throw this in combination with the producer's bow tie to give them a little bit of hate up but less movement, to keep them in the back and to keep their hate down at the same time. Using these two to kind of cancel each other out. This is a stronger hate down effect than that is a hate up effect. So you could get the decreased movement and decreased hate and really keep your ranged unit kind of out of everything for a very long time while they just rain damage in. This is also going to give them a missile attack and accuracy of 20. Those are the best that those passives are going to get. So you've got 2 maxed passives and hate down 8, which I think is especially important for ranged units. So this is a super impactful bow in a lot of reasons. And even if it weren't just for the stats and the passives being really good here, hate down 8, again, this is such a meaningful thing within the AI. This is a mechanical difference. When we talk about raising, when we talk about what has a big attack stat or which has a big modifier, we're just talking about raising damage. This makes the game fundamentally different for your bow unit because of that hate down. Super impactful. Big recommend. The next bow that I think is worth your attention, especially if you can't fully max out the Yoichi's bow to your satisfaction, is the farmable killer bow plus 6. This is going to be 183 attack, so very similar to Yoichi's bow. 2 accuracy, not similar to Yoichi's bow. -5 evasion, which is a bummer, but not super relevant. There are a lot of really evasive bow units. Reflex is a thing, but relying on natural evasion is not really a thing. And I just don't think it's a relevant stat for them, so losing it doesn't really matter to me. 8 critical is okay. Missile attack 15 and critical damage is decent for a +6. All of this combines to do pretty good damage, I would say. Not the most accurate bow, but there is just decent stuff here. This is a good all-around bow for a damage unit. Another way that you could go for a damage unit, I think I might even actually like this bow better, is the platinum bow +6. 207 attack is quite high. 2 accuracy, 6 crit, a little bit lower than what's on the killer bow, but no negative evasion, which again doesn't really matter, but it's worth mentioning. Defense penetration of 20 is pretty cool. I like this. And there's also 10 missile attack. Now, generally, I like missile attack 15 and critical damage a little bit better than these passives because these passives are just a little bit more specific. All of your attacks, pretty much, are going to be missile attacks, usually. There are some units that might do non-missile damage that would actually appreciate the defense penetration more. But critical damage is a pretty general upgrade. Defense penetration is very helpful when it's helpful, and I think a little bit more useful in modernizing some units. And it's also cool that missile attack 10 you know, we're still only going missile down 5. So this is still a pretty good bow in that respect, but maybe just slightly more niche for units that really want the defense penetration instead of higher, more general modifiers. And then we can think about also the rune bow +6. This is not one of my favorites, at least on the physical side, but it is worth mentioning because it is fairly accurate. 174 attack, 9 accuracy, 2 evasion. Okay, still not a relevant stat, but it's at least good that's positive. 4 critical. Passives are 15 missile attack, nothing to write home about, but pretty decent and good all around, and 10 accuracy, which is probably one of my favorite passives on these guys. Other than the hate down 8, obviously, but getting accuracy on a bow is usually pretty nice. The next bow that I think is worthy of consideration is the Bow of the Divine +6. This has 191 attack, so it's a little bit more powerful than the rune bow, but I think this is kind of where it falls apart conceptually for me. 5 accuracy, 3 crit, okay, nothing great there. 15 missile attack, okay, that's kind of like baseline. You're at par. Let's see if you can really drive this thing home. What's the other passive? HP +25 for the first 3 turns of the battle, which is pretty terrible, I would say. Unless you're doing a missile versus missile or like a super ranged battle, you should be getting to them turns before they get to you. That's kind of the point of a ranged unit. So having an effect that increases your HP at the beginning of the fight is probably not going to come in handy as much as you think it would. But in addition to that, most ranged units aren't tanks, you know, like they aren't big old thick boys. 25% attack, 25% HP is a lot, but even with that, I think that a lot of units, if someone should get in range with them within 3 turns, they are facing bigger problems than 25% HP can really solve for them. It's not a terrible passive, but it does feel way out of place here on a bow. Like if this was on something like a fist, for instance, that would be pretty cool. It's not on a fist. It's on a ranged weapon, and it just doesn't quite make sense. That being said, some of the other stat lines here are at least decent, so you could do worse than this bow. What would be doing worse than this bow? Well, that would probably be the Wolf bow. I think of the bows that I think are actually worth mentioning, the Wolf bow is the least impressive in my opinion. 167 attack ain't much. 7 accuracy is okay, 4 crit is not great. So the stats here are kind of middling, and this is a +5. We've been comparing this to legendary reliquaries and +6 bows, so it still has room to grow. This is one of the reasons that it's not as great. Also, it's a specific bow to Charisse. Charisse, even with these extra bonuses make it a decent bow, but they don't make her a decent unit, unfortunately. I mean, she's okay, but just not what you want to pick in really any scenario, I think, for wind. I've already talked about this in a post. But the reason that this makes the list, even though it has middling stats, is that it's the missile resistance penetration bow. Missile resistance penetration of 20 is you know, what you would expect from a bow like this. It's not super relevant, but I do try to list the penetration bows because for the units that want them, this is going to be interesting. That being said, I think that this is probably as niche as these penetration bows probably get, and on a pretty poor piece of equipment as well. So not great, but there are certain units that might really like this in certain matchups. If you're going against someone who is really missile resistance heavy, say like maybe Raldor or Uriel, units like that, you really might want the Wolf bow to take down most effectively. But then again, it still might not be your best pick. Maybe you want the Platinum bow to deal with their defense, or, you know, there's other options, but it is worth mentioning, but just barely. So what do we think are some of the most all-around useful bows? Well, probably the more accurate ones. And in some of these cases, you're going to have to go with an aim build instead of an assault build. So I thought it was important to list these separately based on what is really good for accuracy as opposed to what is good for their other stats. So these are going to have significantly different stats because they're different builds than what you might be used to. Except for the Yuichi's bow, which doesn't have builds. But most accurate bow, that I see by a bit is the Rune Bow Aim. The Rune Bow Aim has 129 attack. Oof. But it has 39 accuracy, 2 evasion, and 4 critical. So 39 on the weapon, and then we get another 10 from the passive. That's going to be a total of 49 accuracy, making this the most accurate of the weapons. The Yoichi's bow comes in a neat second, I would say, because it's going to be packing a total of 35 accuracy. Not quite 49, but 35 is still pretty respectable between its two. And this is also, while doing that, going to pack decent attack and magic stats as well as great passives. Again, this is a very accurate bow, a very great bow all around. It's not technically the most accurate because there is the Rune Bow with that 49 accuracy up, but it is probably the best bow that is very accurate, because you are trading off a bit with the Rune Bow 6 that you don't have to make those trade-offs with Yoichi's bow. With the Elven Bow plus 6, the build is it's gonna be a magical build, so we're gonna have oh no, I'm sorry, this isn't the magic build, this is still the aim build. 91 attack, 142 magic, so if you want an accurate magic bow, this is going to be the way to go. 25 accuracy and 5 critical with a magic attack of plus 20. So again, very much for the very few. I think there's only 2 in that we have Rosa and Fina. But Rosa and Vina will be able to take advantage of that magic attack plus 20 and the magic stat on here. If you need one of those 2 units to be more accurate, this would be the build of that bow to use. And then finally we have the Bow of the Divine. In its aim build, it only has 133 attack, but it has 20 accuracy on it, which is coming in last. The Elven Bow plus 6 had 25 accuracy on it. This only has 20. The other stats are kind of sad. I'm still upset that they put HP plus 25 on a bow, but if we're just talking about accuracy, this does come in a okay 4th for accuracy builds, but still not a bow that I would highly recommend. I am still very disappointed at its passives. And then if we're talking about Fina or Rosa, and I know this is actually getting fairly niche and maybe even more niche than this should be, but if you do need a good magic bow, you do have basically 2 options. The magic build on the Elven Bow plus 6 is going to give you 163 magic, 12 accuracy, which is not the 25 on the aim, but still pretty decent. The trade-off that you're going to get, I think because this is the critical build of the bow, not the magic build, whatever, it's a weird bow, is that you're going to get 20 critical with this build as well. So you're getting a lot of magic, a lot of critical, and the magic attack up, that 20 that we mentioned earlier, which, I don't know, for a plus 6 feels actually pretty low, but it is what it is. Your other option is going to be the Yoichi's bow. For all the reasons that we mentioned above, it's still an amazing bow. The difference for a magical character for the Yoichi's bow is going to be that they are only going to be getting an attacking stat, their magic stat of 136 as opposed to the 182 that a physical unit would get. But you do still have a combined 35 accuracy, 4 critical, 20 missile attack up, and that ever important 8 down 8. And I cannot emphasize how important that is. It's a big deal, and I think it's going to make a big difference in a number of battles with bow units moving forward. This is definitely something that is, I think, a boon to units like Eliza that I already really like, and I think that's a great bow for them. So I was really excited when it came out for the Legendary Reliquaries. I think it's a quite good one, and I'm pretty psyched that it has decent applications in basically all of these. Like, there's 3 ways that you could go with a bow, and it's first or second best in all of them. So really good all-around bow, and also kind of a nice way to go to not worry about these if you can clear Legendary Reliquaries easily. It's a good all-rounder for you. So with that being said, thank you for watching. I just updated my whole link tree. That's going to be the link in the description that will lead you to the rest of the Jackie Fox Media Empire, where we have other YouTube channels, we have podcasts, and most importantly, we have books. That's how I make my money, other than people sending me money and subscribing on Patreon, which you can also find links to through that link as well. But also you'll find a link to my newest paperback book. It should be live by the time this goes out. I'm super excited about it. I wrote it about all the vibes of 2020 and kind of wrote a narrative within that in a slightly fantasized, slightly cyberpunky version of 2020. A little bit of subtle alternate history that I think it was just fun to it helped me process what I had went through. Maybe it'll help you. Maybe you'll find it relatable. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Go check it out if you want. That the paperback should be available soon, and the ebook is in first edition if you like to read ebooks, that kind of thing. But no matter what you do, remember to like and subscribe because you made it to this point in the video. Clearly you're into it, and I appreciate it. And if you have any thoughts, man, let me know in the comments. Let me know what kind of content you'd like me to make for wotv. I'm perfectly happy to do the kind of things that other wotv content creators aren't making. So if you have any ideas for what that might be, what you would like my advice on, or like me to take a look at or analyze, let me know, and I'll do my best to get to it. I have teams in basically every element, so I may not be able to show you everything, but if there's a team that I can build for you that you want to see, you're curious about that kind of thing, let me know in the comments. But in the meantime, check out that link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.